Hey guys, it's KimJongSpoon, and for today's video we are going to be looking at the Tier 10 German super heavy tank, the E-100. Historically, the E-100 was the competitor to the mighty Maus in Germany's late war super heavy tank design, and it lost out. They did produce one hull of an E-100, which was recovered at the end of World War II, and I believe it was scrapped by the British. And the Maus, they produced two hulls and one turret. Needless, neither of those tanks actually saw service. We believe they were only used in testing purposes for the Germans and later on for the Soviets. There's a Maus in one of the Soviet tank museums that has tons of marks on its upper plate from Soviet guns that were tested on it, and they all ricocheted. Anyways, here in the E-100, we are on Middleburg, and we are taking up a side-scraping location on the far left side of the map. We've spawned in the north spawn 1, and we're platooned up with Sebastian 1145. He's in his Jagdpanzer E-100. Make a little bit of a mistake there. I push forward. I take one shell from the FE-215B, but it was a pretty good damage trade, 750 to 400. Needless, trading damage is something that you really don't want to be ever doing. You want to be firing and then either bouncing the return shot or firing when they don't have a return shot available. And so you keep all of your health, and the enemy are the only one that takes damage. So we have this STI camping in the back. Well, he's really sniping. Camping is when you're not being helpful to your team, and sniping is when you are being helpful to your team. So he's being kind of helpful. Anyways, we donkey heat shell in the dirt in front of him, and Sebastian notifies me that there's a T-32 coming around the back, which was a mistake for him, because there are 3 Tier 10s looking at him on this side. So I put a shell in, somebody else puts a shell in, and then Seb gets the kill. Because I was wiggling back and forth, I put myself in a sticky situation, side-hugging this building, so I have to poke out in front of this E-100 just to be able to get off the wall. I eat one of his shells into my tracks. That was probably a heat shell, considering that tracks eat heat shells pretty easily. So the STI and the FE-215B are pushing. We see the FE-215B hiding behind the STI, and the FE-215B is our priority target. His gun can damage us, STI not so much, other than the lower plate, which we can mitigate. So the FE-215B is coming around. I said, Seb, put one into the FE-215B. He says, yeah, gotcha. Unfortunately, the FE-215B does hit us once, but Seb secures the kill on him, so we no longer have to worry about that. I'm trying to get a shot on this STI, but they're super strong. Take an HE shell in the side from the E-100, it looks like. And now we're pushing this STI back towards this side because we don't want to take any more shells from the E-100. Heat shell into his upper plate. We don't have a lot of gun depression, and this tank's really tall, so we need to be able to hit his upper plate. If we had to pull back super far to hit his lower plate, we were angling our turret there so we could pen with APCR or heat shells. Not sure which one the STI has, but we get the kill on him. E-100's pushing. I thought it was Seb at the beginning, but now it looks like he's pushing to me. So I said, Seb, get ready to hit this E-100. E-100's coming around. I've got AP loaded. Don't want my shell to be eaten in his tracks. Put one in, and that one actually hit his spaced armor skirt. That did not hit his tracks. If it hit his tracks, it went into his hull and damaged his tank. But unfortunately, just hit his tracks, and that's the game. So I got 1 kill, Seb got 3 kills. Let's take a look at the post-game stats. So we got our third class 3,100 damage. Seb got 4,000 damage, which is a really good game. We both got over 1,000 base XP. But now, let's take a look at a little bit better game. I have gotten 3 Master Badge Ace Tankers in the E-100. And to get a Master Badge Ace Tanker, you need around 6,800 to 7,000 damage against Tier 9s and 10s. My first Ace Tanker was also a Kolobanov's, I believe, but my second one, don't worry about getting Kolobanov's or anything like that. All you need to do is do the damage. E-100 is one of the hardest tanks to get an ace tanker in because so many people play it. I believe, according to WoTeam Stars, there are over 1,000 people who have more than 50 battles in this tank. So it's a very popular Tier 10, and so therefore getting your ace tanker in it is very difficult. However, getting thirds and second classes is not that difficult because people are getting mediocre games and then that's bringing the 3rd and 2nd class marks down, but when Super Unicums play it, they get 9,000 damage. That raises the ace tanker bar pretty high. Here on mines, our mediums decided not to go to the hill because maybe it was because there was a 4-2-0-2 that was going to rush the hill on the other team, but the IS-8 from the other team decides to take the hill first. There's the 4-2-0-2. Put one in, take his tracks out, and damage his ammo rack. I am wiggling, don't want to take a shot from the 4-2-0-2. Wiggle, 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 we're angling a turret. Don't know if he's aiming at me or not. Turns out he isn't, and our second shot does a ton of damage as well. Damage his engine, and his tracks are damaged. So, in 2 shots, we've taken the 4-2-0-2 down to, what, 15% of his hit points? So, this high alpha damage gun is a big asset to the E-100. And now, I'm in a pretty sticky situation. I've got an IS-8 above me, Tiger 2 to my left, a bunch of tanks to my right, and there's a 4-2-0-2 somewhere else, but he never shows back up for like 5 minutes. If I go right, then the tanks in front of me can shoot my lower plate, the IS-8 can shoot my side, and the Tiger 2 can shoot my rear. I can't hit the IS-8 because he's hidden behind the hill, so I'm in a bad spot. I pop over the hill long enough to put one into the T-95, and I'm going to stay up here. It looks like the IS-8 is busy. Their E-5's coming forward. I know I'm spotted, but I guess they're just tunnel visioning. One into the E5. The IS-8 is looking at me. Yeah, we take one in the rear from the IS-8. We want to finish off this E5. I probably could have loaded HE instead of heat, but we load the heat shell to secure the kill, taking out the E5. That's 1 tier 10 down for them. And looks like there's a tier 9 down for us. So, Seb's gotten himself stuck. Not sure how he did that, but yeah, we'll just let that one slide as he slides down the hill. And I make a complete fool of myself shooting at this IS-8. This IS-8 is in a really strong spot. I can only shoot his turret because of my relative position to him being higher, and there's a little lip in the hill. And while he doesn't have the gun depression to shoot me, he could easily pop over the hill, angle his tank downwards, and put a shot into me. Bounce another heat shell off of him, and the IS-3 has started to cap. So, eventually I'm gonna need to leave and defend the base. I'd rather have killed this IS-8 and then done that, but in a while I'm gonna have to defend the base. So someone went into the base, looks like it was the Centurion 7-1, but he got himself killed. You see the IS-3's in there. I'm looking for a shot with heat. That one hit his gun mantlet, so did not penetrate. I probably should have loaded HE for that one too. And this IS-8 still playing games with me. 51% on the cap. I'm gonna have to leave here soon. T-95's calling defend the base, defend the base, defend the base. And so I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna need to defend this base, so let's go defend the base. Really cautious. Don't want this IS-8 to put a shot in. Have a heat shell loaded. Heat bounces, so I said, okay, we're gonna go now. 75% on the cap. IS-3's pulling down. It looks like he wants to cap out. There are more of them than us, but it looks like they've all taken a beating, so they just want to cap out. Another shot in the rear from the IS-8. I don't even care. I'm just gonna go. Something else gets spotted to my left. That's probably the 4-2-0-2. Bounce their shot. Here's the IS-3. He bounces my shot, but we do 300 damage with a ram, and we reset the cap. This tank weighs in excess of 130 tons, so ramming, if you can get the speed, is a really great idea. Any of the E series weigh a ton. The E number is supposed to be their weight, so E-100 should weigh 100 tons, but development was problematic, and they ran overboard on the weight. That was one of the reasons that it was not produced, and the mouse won the contract instead. Killed the IS-3 with an HE shell, and now it's just the IS-8 versus 3 of us. Centurion 1 rams him, tracks him. We put one in right underneath this turret. That was a mistake. I should have pulled back instead of rushing forward, because he's able to put one into my side because I did that. But Centurion 1 tracks him again. We retrack him, it looks like, and we secure the kill. So 3 kills and a ton of base defense points. So let's take a look at the post-game stats for that battle. Second class defender, 4,700 damage. yeah, that was a pretty good game. That was one of the more than average games that I had in a platoon session with Sebastian1145 in his Jagdpanzer E-100. And the E-100 Jagdpanzer E-100 is one of the strongest platoons in my opinion because of the high alpha damage. So this is a clip from one of the other games we played. The game wasn't super great, but there were 2 kills at the very beginning of the match that illustrate how high alpha damage guns platoon together can work. Like that. The T-54 went from 1600 health to 0 health in a half a second because there was an IS-7, a Jagdpanzer E-100, and an E-100 all focusing fire. Who's the next target? Looks like this E-100. His lower plate showing 1, 2, 3, 4. So in about 2 seconds, we took all of the health off of that E-100. So high alpha damage guns platooned are super strong. So the E-100, how do I feel about it? It's a super strong tank, and it's super forgiving for beginners. Because this was my first tier 10, I have a special place in my heart for it, but I really feel like the Tiger II and the E-75 prepare you well to play in the E-100. The only skill that you don't learn is angling the turret, but watch any YouTube video and they'll tell you how to angle the turret and that you should angle the turret. Another thing that's different about the E-100 compared to the E-75 and the Tiger II is that you should over-angle. So in the E-75, you wanted to keep your side armor at more than a 70-degree angle to your enemy, because that means that the shell will just ricochet and while increasing the angle of your lower plate. The E-100 is different because it has strong side armor. It has a very strong actual thickness of side armor. Then it has big tracks that have a lot of effective armor thickness, and then you have more side skirts on top of that. So if you shoot at the top part of the hull on an E-100, you're going to bounce no matter what you're firing. If you shoot at the lower part of the hull underneath the side skirts, you can pen with about 200 millimeters of penetration, but there's a small gap between where the side skirts end and where the hull actually ends underneath that. So it's pretty hard to hit the hull without hitting the side skirts. So you can over-angle your tank, because if the enemy shoots heat shells, the tracks and spaced armor are just going to eat those up, and it's very, very, very strong on the side, so you can over-angle to increase the effective armor thickness of your lower plate, which is your biggest weakness. The strong suit, in my opinion, of the E-100 compared to the Mouse or the E-5 is its gun. It has a 150mm gun, which does 640 average damage, which is the same average damage as the BL-10 on the ISU-152. This gun does have some drawbacks, though. Accuracy is 0.4, it's not very good at all, and penetration is 235 millimeters with armor piercing. So unless you're firing at the sides of tanks, then heat shells are going to be required unless you're hitting hit points, which is difficult because you only have 235 millimeters of penetration. So I carry a healthy stock of heat shells. I also carry lots of HE shells because HE does in between 300 and 400 damage depending on what you're shooting at. So you can kill, 300 health E5s with an HE shell because of the caliber of the gun. The Jagdpanzer E-100 has an even bigger gun, so that'll do even more damage with HE, but HE does tons of damage in the E-100. So yeah, E-100, tons of fun. I would recommend it as a first line because it teaches you angling, it teaches you map awareness, because you have to be very aware of the map. This is a pretty slow tank, so you have to be cautious of where you're going, what positions you're putting yourself into. It's also a side-scraping champ because of that side armor, so it helps you learn those skills. I would highly recommend it as a first, second, or even third tier 10. If you don't have it, then I would really suggest going down this line and picking one up, because they're tons of fun. Nothing more fun than seeing 3 E-100s on your team, because you just know that if they're sticking together, they're almost impossible to kill, because they'll just one-shot whatever they come across. As far as the E-100 Jagdpanzer E-100 Platoon, you'll probably see a couple more videos involving that platoon, because it's just so much fun to watch tier 8s melt when you concentrate fire. If I pick up a Jagdpanzer E-100, then Seb and I are going to use those. It's going to be great. So stay tuned for more awesome tank videos, and thanks for watching.